Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. And what I'm going to do in this series of videos is we're going to look at the question and answer session with Peter Faulding. And this has gone from Luke's channel, Luke, who did the interview for some reason, and it's perfectly entitled to remove his videos if he wants to. He has removed it. But I think now, coming up to the anniversary of what happened to Nicola and the fact that Peter said that he had found her in the river, I think this is the time now for me. I've had this video for quite a while, and now is the time for me to look at it in a more detached way. I'm not Peter bashing. I'm not here to Peter bash or Luke bash. Literally to look at this video and critique it, if you like, or assess it, comment on it as I see it. And some people I know don't like any criticism against Peter. Other people feel like I do, that they feel let down by Peter. And we will see as we go through this video. You make your own mind up. I'm not here to tell you what to think about Peter or what to think about Luke or what to think about anything. I'm just here to present to you what what was actually said. I'm not making it up. This is the actual video. And then you can decide what you want to think about the whole situation. People will have their different opinions. That's life. Okay, now it's a very long video. It's 3 hours, 27 minutes. So we're going to do it in 3 parts. So that'll be more or less an hour each part. Or an hour and a bit, won't it? In fact, I'm going to do it in 4 parts because I don't want it to be too long. Each video to be too long. I want people to concentrate on what is actually said and make their opinions and make their assessment on what is actually said. Not to get bored through it and zone out and not listen anymore. Okay, so let's start.
There we go. Hi, Luke and Peter. So we are live. I'll just let a few more people hop in. We've got 680 people here in the live. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Just going to let a few more.
Yeah, it was quite bizarre. I did feel, and I said it at the time, and I mean it genuinely, did feel like Luke did not look comfortable. And I don't know why that is, whether it's because of the interview or, somebody said he'd just had a cold or whatever, but it was a difficult interview to do at the best of times. So I did feel that Luke was maybe not in his best place, if you like, while he was doing it.
People come in. Can everybody see and hear okay? Just give me a yes if you can hear and see okay. I've got a lot of hello Peters and hello Luke, so I'm assuming that we are all good.
Yeah, and he almost sounded as if something had, my first impression was, had he been hit in the mouth or something? I'm being genuinely honest there. I'm not trying to be nasty or anything. Literally, his voice sounded strange, and it was a worry, because, with all the situation around this case, there's always strange things happening. You just never know, do you?
Hey, Luke. Hey, Peter. Yes. Hi, everyone. Hi, Luke and Peter. Hello, everybody. Right. Thank you. Okay. So, firstly, welcome to what is going to be a quite a long evening. Thank you for Mr. Peter Faulding for being here, and this is going to be an important night for Peter. So, firstly, I just want to introduce tonight's video. Tonight's very important live video, which will last a bit of a long time, but it is very important, as we are all aware.
And he was doing a lot of rocking there. I do that as well. That's nerves, I think, rocking backwards and forwards. He will have been quite nervous because there will have been a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people knowing that a lot of people are going to be watching it. It's, well, it would have had a lot of views if it would have been left up there. you know, so it was a difficult situation to control. Personally, if I would have been Luke, I would not have done this live like this, because with the best will in the world, I think that's what went wrong with it. You know, if people could have sent in their questions, and you know, you're asking people to suggest questions, but you, at the end of the day, you as the person who's in control of the interview, you do have to choose the questions. You know, you can't accept everybody's questions. So I would have invited people to send in their questions. A lot of them would have been the same question. So there would have been some, you know, and I would have chosen the most popular questions. There would have been some questions, probably maybe 30 people had asked the same question. So they would go up to the top and that. And, you know, a lot of people complain their questions were not asked properly, but that's what happens in a live. You know, when you do a live video, you do, you know, it's difficult to keep a grasp on what's going on. So it might have been better not done in a live. It might have been better done in, I suppose he would think then that he'd get accused of, you know, manipulating it or whatever if it wasn't in a live. But it just made it, unfortunately, trying to do it in a live, something like this with so much interest, is really quite difficult. And, you know, it meant he had to have quite a few spanners who were literally turfing people off just for saying anything, basically. So, you know, that didn't look good either. It just looked, you know, they were getting a sort of a bit carried away, I think, because although, yes, nobody could ask any more questions of Luke to ask because he already had the 50 questions, but there's nothing to stop them chatting about different aspects and what have you. No, there was no reason to sort of turf people off just because they were trying to chat. So anyway, you know, they weren't saying nasty things, because I read the chat all the way through. You'd probably be able to see it as you go through this. It wasn't that they were saying nasty things, they were just asking questions to chat with the other chatters. So that was a problem as well, whereas you could have avoided all that. He could have done it as a video and then done like a premiere where it was, you know, people could comment on it as it went through, but it wasn't actually totally live, where it just did come over like quite difficult, didn't it? You know, so anyway, there you go. That's a lesson maybe to learn for the next time.
So first things I just want to say is that the reason we're here today is that some people out there have been confused about things that Peter said and has done during the search for Nicola Bulley, compared with what was said to me in a recent interview, which is on my channel. If you've not seen the interview yet, I suggest you go and watch that first. We'll come back to this later on. Now, it's Peter that wanted to do this live Q&A. It was actually Peter's idea, so respect.
And no offence, Peter, but he does look quite sinister in the background there, doesn't he? The way he's that. He's like, he reminds me of a James Bond villain. Sort of, all he needs is a white cat, and there he is, like a fluffy white cat, and he's like, you know, that it's yeah, maybe that's because he doesn't think about the effect of lighting and things like that in the camera position. So, but yeah, it's a very bizarre interview. But anyway, never mind.
For that, and we're going to clear up some confusion on a few things. Now, there's 50 questions here today, and that's quite a lot of questions, as you're all aware. And these questions were all picked by the public the other night in one of my live videos that is viewable on my channel. Anyone can go and check that. These are not my questions, these are your questions. So moving on. Yeah, what I would like to say is please look at the description in this video. There's a few things said in there. Just please read that. But I'm just going to briefly go over what's in there now anyway. Yeah, basically the description is just like.
So Peter looks a bit irritated as well here. This was my very first impression. I just thought, gosh, he looks a little bit irritated because they were a little bit late starting. There's probably some last minute, what's the word? Last minute problems, you know, as there always are. I mean, God, you know, I know that more than anyone. It's easy to sort of, you know, for things to go wrong, they tend to go wrong just as you're about to start a live. That's another reason why I think it probably would have been better if this was not live. Peter just looks slightly irritated. Maybe he's been sat for a while waiting to start. He wants to, you know, get on with his evening. I don't know.
Laying out kind of what will and what won't be tolerated in this kind of chat. We're here to get some information, to clear up a few things. We're not here to insult. We're not here to accuse. We're not here to swear. Negativity and that kind of rude, not very nice behaviour won't be tolerated here. So the 50 questions are at the ready. Like I said, they've been chosen by yourselves. I will ask, I will sit back, and I will let Peter answer.
You know, suddenly, like, Luke doesn't want any spite or nastiness on his channel, but he has done that before. He's done it aimed at me. Of course, these videos disappear. They disappear. But I imagine that Peter has made it clear to him that there mustn't be anything like that. And that's fair enough. There shouldn't be any spite or hate on a chat anyway. It just shouldn't be, and you shouldn't allow it, or you certainly shouldn't encourage it. So I'm glad to see that Luke has come round to that.
Those questions. Please do not super chat any questions, as they won't be read out. And I don't want you to waste any money by asking them and expecting them to be read out. Feel free to super chat any nice comments, any gratitude, and any offers of support. Though, again, I can't promise to read.
Yeah, that was because he did say that half. I wonder if half those super chats are still going to charity that he said he was going to do. Anyway,
those out, as I'll mostly be focusing on speaking with Peter on what is going to be a very busy and important live this evening. Please refrain from swearing, from insulting, from accusations, from speaking about the family, police bashing, or any rude behaviour, as it will not be tolerated and you will be removed from this. That is for the very, very, very few. The majority, I know it'll be a really good, interesting time, and, you know, people are going to take a lot from this. I've got my heater on. I'm not freezing to death. I've got a light. I've got my coffee. Pete, have you got your drink? Have you got your coffee?
Yeah, got mine, Luke. Tea.
Right. So what I'm going to just do is I'm just going to basically ask you, Peter, is there anything that you would like to say before we begin this live?
I'd just like to say to everybody, thank you for coming, and thank you for sort of hearing my side of the story. And what I've got to say tonight is the absolute truth, and I would stand up and swear in any court on this, everything. And most of the work that we've done on the Nicola Bully case was witnessed by, most conversations were witnessed by my team, and all actions were witnessed by my team. And they're very credible ex-military and police people. So, and I've also had a lot of backing from current service.
Now, of course, Peter, you know, on his social media channels, he doesn't allow anyone to say anything. And also, I think what has just sort of amazed me about Peter is, for some reason, I was banned from his Twitter. I still can't get over it. And I don't even follow him on Twitter. I've never commented on his Twitter account. So he's obviously been in there cleaning up his account, getting rid of anyone that... These are the things that make me wary of Peter as well. He says that everything he says is going to be the absolute truth. But if it's the absolute truth, then you don't have to cover it up. You know, you don't have to... You just... You know, you don't have to take any notice of... He doesn't like people taking an opposite view. Now, my view is, if you saw Nicola there, you left her there, you never mentioned it. Now, he says he told the police admit that he told them. They went and checked the area and cleared the area, and by everybody's admission, that area was not difficult to clear. So, you know, it was clear water, it was not... So it was not deep water. So what really we've coming down to now is, who do we believe? Like Peter's now saying this was a definite target, whereas at first it was a target, and he went on then many times to say that she was categorically not in the river. And now he's saying that, well, she was all the time, but the police, we get these sort of crazy thing that people saying that police left her there, or the police wanted to find her because they wanted to prove their hypothesis was correct. And the police have said they didn't want Peter going down. Peter is a civilian. I think people forget that. I think people think of him as part of the police, but he was brought in by the family, was not brought in by the police. And there was already some bad blood there, wasn't it? Because he had said, that's how Emma and Paul had seen him on TV saying how he thought the police had made a cock up of everything. So that wasn't good, was it, right from the beginning? And this is my thing. And then this about him saying, oh, he talking to the media and stuff like that, and he's saying he wasn't told not to talk to the media, but he's worked with the police long enough to know you shouldn't be talking to the media. You don't need that babysitting by the police. He did a lot of things wrong. The police did a lot of things wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, I think they cocked up everything. But one thing I do not believe, 100% do not believe, that the police would have deliberately left Nicola there when they wanted her to be found. They wanted her to be found. So I think this is not true. I think these images, and I could be proved wrong. If I'm proved wrong, I'll be the first one to turn around and say to Peter, I'm sorry, I was wrong. But until he actually presents those images properly to an expert, I can't think like that. I think he's really done a bad thing for the family. And if that was my child, I'll tell you what, I would sue the ass off him.
Having police officers and ex-police officers to do this. So I've got a lot of support, and I must say I have the greatest respect for the police. I work with them all the time. This is not about getting at the police or criticising, but this is sharing my side of the story to a few inaccuracies that have been given in the College of Policing report. Quite a few inaccuracies, and I just want to get the story correct so we can all move forward.
Now, I did his original interview with Luke, which you should go and look at. Like Luke said, if you haven't seen that original interview, I've watched a bit of it. I haven't watched all of it because it just makes me too annoyed. But he's saying about the College of Policing report, but that interview was recorded way before the report came out. So he knew what was coming out in that report. He knew, because he recorded the interview way before the actual thing came out. So, this is what I don't understand, why he's just sort of waited so long and still waiting to this day anyway, to the 13th of January, to my knowledge. No expert confirmation has come out, and then you've got a YouTube channel dangling it in, their views in front of people's noses, trying to make them watch more videos, before they comment on it. It's just horrible, I think.
Well said. So the 50 questions that I've got now, obviously 50 questions is a lot. Please bear with Peter on the answers, because we're not here for the questions to just be a quick 1 second job. This is very, very important. So this will be long. And also, we're all humans. There will be calls of nature throughout this, I'm sure. So at the 25th question, we are going to just stop for a couple of moments. You can stare at this lovely background while I go for a call of nature. I'm sure Peter will need to go for a call of nature as well. So yeah, we'll do that at question 25. Now, we've got 1,078 people in here today. So if everyone can hit the like and show some gratitude for Peter Faulding and for choosing to come on here live and doing this, that'll be very appreciated. I can personally say for myself that my experience with working with Peter is a very, very honest and genuine guy. And if I thought otherwise, I would not be sat here right now conducting this live. So at the end of all the questions, if there will be.
I don't think that's necessarily true, because obviously he must have been really chuffed when Peter Faulding contacted him and asked him to do an interview. I don't know if he's so chuffed about it all now, because it's sort of I do feel like Luke's been used a little bit, because I don't, you know, no disrespect to Luke, but he is in the YouTube world. He's a tiny channel, as am I. He's a bigger channel than mine, but he's still a tiny channel. And there were so many other channels. Well, he should have gone to mainstream media first, but I think he's probably gone to mainstream media. They weren't interested, or not very interested, because there's no evidence, there's no proof. They've got to, you know, check everything that they say. And I still don't understand why he didn't go to James English, because he'd already done an interview with James English, who's got, you know, many more subscribers than Luke. So why did he choose Luke? You know, and that's no offense against Luke. I'm just wondering why Luke, and why not James English or one of the bigger YouTube channels. It's seems quite strange to me that he did that. And you know, did he approach James English, and did James English say, sorry, you know, unless I've got evidence? You just don't know. I don't know. Or did he just not even bother approaching James English, because he'd already been on his show saying she was categorically not in the river? You know, that was one of the times when he made these sweeping statements. So that's a bit of a mystery to me. And I wonder how Luke feels about it now, if he regrets it, because of course it's took him down a road where, you know, he's inextricably tied to Peter, whatever happens. So, you know, he can't be impartial. He can't be impartial now.
A lot answered throughout the questions, but once we've done the questions, Peter is then going to take us through the whole search from himself and SGI, from start to finish, in meticulous detail. Is that correct, Peter? You're going to take us through.
That's correct, Luke. And what I do want to say, I do not know the questions. I've got no notes written down. I've got a couple of bits I want to read out to you later, but I've got no notes. I've got no screen in front of me. This is all I've got a sort of very sort of photographic memory. I can remember everything, so I don't need to. I'm not making anything up. This is as it happened tonight. So please bear with us.
Respect, Peter. Thank you for the super chat tips. They're very, very appreciated. This has been you know, a couple of weeks in the making now, and you know, it's a big night. So Peter, I'm going to go straight into the questions. Okay, I'm going to ask a question, I'm going to sit back, and I'm going to be a bystander like everybody else that's in this chat.
Sure.
Right, and again, just to reiterate for anyone that's popped on, these questions have come from yourselves, have come from the public. These are not my questions, and they are all viewable. I'll say that again, viewable in a live that we can do.
No, he seems to be having problems getting his words out, Luke. So I don't know if he's been smacked in the face or if he's had a few whatevers. But it was quite. I think maybe that's why he's taken this interview down, isn't it? Because he doesn't come over as professionally as he did in the original interview. Now, maybe that was through nerves he's done that. You know, I don't blame him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticising him for it. You know, everybody's human. Just, of course, he took the video down after Peter Lawson died, and he put up some, I don't know if the community post is still there, because Luke's community posts do tend to disappear. But he made some comment about it turning into this dystopian nightmare, which of course it is. I mean, I think we all feel a bit like that. So I do understand that. You know, he didn't want to he just wanted to distance himself from it. Then he's thought about it again and decided to put up the first interview with Peter again. You know, so it's been up and down with his videos. And I believe tomorrow, you know, as we're speaking now, he's doing some sort of live on Peter Faulding. Somebody was telling me, I don't know whether it's, I don't know what that entails. I think it's tomorrow. I don't know when exactly. But yeah, go over to his channel, see what he's up to.
Up to the other evening. So, the first question, is it usual or unusual for a target to be found in a fetal position in the water?
No. So I just want to clarify the fetal position. Now, it's quite common, in fact. We find, on average, about 10 drowning victims each year across the southeast. The majority of them are laying on one side. When I say fetal position, people take that the wrong way, where they're actually like a baby in mum's womb. When I say fetal position, we call it in the trade as laying on the side with the legs slightly bent, and that's it, laying on the side in sort of curled up, but not too curled up. And it's very common for us to find them in that area, or often they can be face down with their knuckles dragging along the ground. It all depends, and it also depends on what state of decomposition they're in, because obviously bodies as well, after, there's no exact science on this, but they stay on the bottom. They always go to the bottom. When a person drowns, they never float. And that's since I've been doing this since 1999. We've never had a floating body. They only float after they decompose, and that could start decomposing. So it'd be 7 days, it could be 15, it could be 20. We had one in Thames Valley that came up after 3 months. So there's no exact science on this anywhere. So that is what I class as the fetal position that we in the team do. They're laying on their side, slightly bent, with arms, and that's it.
It's not very nice, is it, to think about? But of course, yeah, I did look that up as well, and of course he's right, because he knows what he's talking about. But I hope Nicola's family haven't watched this, because there's many times I think through this that it perhaps goes into a lot of detail. And I think what you've always got to remember, this is, people seem to be sometimes more protective of Peter Faulding's reputation. The only thing I'm interested in is protecting Nicola's memory, the fact that one day her daughters will be watching this, probably, maybe even now. You don't know. It's difficult to stop children watching things. Her parents may watch it. You don't know who her family or extended family. She has extended family, and you just think, is this really helpful to them? Peter's always saying, "Oh, out of respect for the family, out of respect for the family." I think when you're watching this, just think, if this was my daughter, my son, a relative of mine, would I be comfortable in watching this, or thinking that people were watching this? Don't forget, Peter is not supposedly a YouTuber. He's a professional. He keeps telling us what professional he is. And that's what I just find uncomfortable, because it seems to me this is not what you would expect from a professional. And of course, the family themselves referred to him as a so-called professional.
And that's the way they generally are. Not always, they can be in different positions, but quite a lot of the time they're in that position.
So it's more of a technical term used in.
Yes, it is what we use in the team. That's correct.
Okay, there's a lot of people. I think I started with that question because there was a lot of people that were asked. They were wondering about that. So I think that might have cleared it up for a lot of people. Thank you for that. So, going to go on to question 2. Just quickly, for any super chats that come in, I do see them. I do appreciate them. I do appreciate the gratitude and the tips. I just, at this moment in time, I won't be able to read them, but nonetheless, they are very appreciated. Okay, question 2. Do you agree or disagree that a body could pass over the weir after 23 days?
Over the weir in 23 days? Absolutely. Well, the body, let's clarify what would have happened when somebody drowns, and this is the bit we need to start from the point A, really. If a body goes in the water, and normally we're finding them in, we never get called these days to search the sea. We used to get called to missing divers many years ago. There's no budgets these days, so most of our bodies are either in lakes, canals.
Now, I think this is a very key thing that he said. There are no budgets these days. So I would imagine that Peter's business has suffered, because there will have been a time when Peter would have been called out very often to deal with things. Now, you'll notice, if you look at all the things that he talks about that he helped with and he did this and that, they're from quite a long time ago. recently there's not that much, you know, so to be called out by the family in this high-profile Nicola Bulley case, it could, you know, and he volunteered his services free of charge because it's fantastic publicity for him. I would imagine that although he was still, before the Nicola Bulley case, of course, he was still on the police register for, you know, people to help. But there are other divers on there. It wasn't just Peter. That's the other thing that you've got to remember. I don't think Lancashire Police would ever have called him in because he's much further away. You know, there's other search teams. I mean, they found Gaynor Lord quite quickly. You know, they do find bodies. It's not true to say that they never do, but there's definitely a budget thing, and he's just said that. Really, you know, he won't be called in as often nowadays as he may have been called in at one time, because there isn't the money there, there isn't the budget there. You know, it's the austerity, it's the fact that you know, unfortunately Britain is in such a state that, you know, the police would rather not investigate or rather save money because they haven't got the money to look into these cases. And I do, you know, I noticed when he said that, and I do think that is true.
Or rivers. Now, if a body is in flood water, and when I say flood water, I mean after heavy winter rain, the banks are risen and the water's throwing it down really hard. That's even too dangerous to put a diver into in them circumstances, and the chance of finding a body is extremely difficult. In normal water like the River Wyre, where Nicola would have gone in, that river that day was moving extremely slowly. I'd done a video, and it's online in one of the papers somewhere, and I threw a stick in with a member of the family, and I stood there, a family friend, and I stood there on the bank, and it was witnessed, and we threw the stick in exactly where in front of the bench, and that stick remains there for 20 minutes, and then we just walked off because it did not move. It did not move at that point. It stayed there. So
did not move from that point, you know. It just, I still think, in my opinion, she probably was not in that river. But anyway, there you go.
Very, very slow moving river. And I want to sort of say to you, the top part of the river where Nicola went in by the bench is what they call non-tidal. So it's not affected by the tide from the sea. Once you get about 300 meters, I'm guessing it's about 300 meters, I've never measured it, but I go along a long corner, approximately 300 meters, there's a weir. Then it goes down into a tidal section. So when the sea comes in from the main sea, miles away, it can rise and fall. So it's every 6 hours it comes in, and just like the sea, from the sea effectively. So down from Morecambe Bay. Now, if Nicola had gone in that day, she would have gone to the bottom. She would not have gone through the weir. Impossible. Unless she was swimming, or unless she was floating and swimming. So if after, and we'll come on to this later once I found the target, the body would rise eventually with decomposition gases. So you bloat from the inside, you blow up like a bloated seal, and then slowly you float to the surface.
I mean, this is just horrible, the way he's talking about this. This is not, you go up like a bloated seal. He's talking about Nicola here. Sorry, I didn't like this at all.
And then you would drift with a very slight current that is there. But on the 19th, there was a spring tide, and that's what the police correctly say in the report, is a huge tide. So there was thousands of gallons of water coming over that weir, literally over the top of the weir. And then that's where Nicola would have been picked up by that really heavy tide. And even they've said that in the report, although it didn't say where she was. Then she would have been carried down over the weir, and then she would have ended up in her final resting place. Now, we searched that lower part, the tidal section, which is extremely shallow in places. We could see the bottom. The boat kept grounding out as the tide went out. There was absolutely nothing at all on the riverbed in the lower section of the river. I'll make that very, very, very clear. Nothing at all on the bottom. And I've got a crystal clear image of that part of the river. So possible when someone floats and goes down, or lifted by a huge incoming surge of water and then carried away.
Thank you, Peter. Moving on. Do you feel that the case should be reopened, considering your findings?
Look,
Now, this is key for me because Luke's just asked him, do you feel like the case should be reopened? So, no, he doesn't.
I see this all the time. I mean, look, all these inquiries about inquiries. I mean, if you think about the College of Police inquiry, this should never have happened. This should never have happened if the job was done properly, the search was done properly from day one. And if Nicola had been found, she should have been found technically in 1 or 2 days. That was the hot zone. That's where she was. I'm not saying a day, but maybe 1 or 2 days. Although if we'd put our sonar in, she would have been found very quickly. Now, public inquiries and all this cost the taxpayer millions of pounds. This police and College of Police inquiry would have cost an absolute fortune. It's very easy to say reopen the case. There are parts of it need to be looked into, probably behind closed doors, and looked into what's happened here. But a huge inquiry would just take money away from the NHS and away from other vital services that are required. I just think we need to move forward on this. The truth needs to be got out there, and then people just need to move on. And also, certain people.
And what he means about the truth is that he found her. He's not interested in her.
Need to be held to account on other issues.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter.
So in other words, no, he doesn't think the case should be reopened. He just thinks his reputation should be exonerated.
Another question which has been asked by a lot of people: will you be releasing the sonar images?
Right. Certainly not. There's never been my intention.
Certainly not. Well, he'd already showed Luke, and he'd already showed the fake psychic, and then he went on after this to show another YouTuber.
Sonar images, what I gave to the police, they won't be released into the public domain because they are extremely upsetting, and I wouldn't want the daughters to go through that when they're older.
Fuck off.
We may get to the stage in the future where we may, because if it continues to go the way it is, where people say they deny the images, we may have to go to a closed media conference where it's closed, where they can't be published, but they.
So you may have heard my accidental expletive there. That was as I was actually just watching it and recording it. I just couldn't help it. Just ridiculous what he's saying. Just not true at all. These are the things that make me not like him, I'm afraid.
It can be shown to make the point, but never released to the public. No, that would be totally the wrong thing to do.
I think that's fair enough.
Fair enough.
Moving on.
Fair enough, says Luke, who's already seen the images. But as I just need to say that as I was watching this video, people were messaging me, emailing me, who were also watching it. Lots of people who all felt the same way as me. And I did put a thumbs down on the video because I just thought it was a load of cojones right from the beginning, really.
I'm just gonna, once you've done your answer, I'll just go straight to the next one.
I'm just being honest. I know I'm not Peter, but I understand why Peter's doing it. Yeah, his reputation. That's very important, you know, and he's got, you know, I've come to realise he's got a big, you know, background of there's people going round onto other people's chats, making comments that are coming directly from him. He doesn't do it himself. He sends other people out to do it. And yeah, he's very crafty. He's very social media aware. He's a very, very, he's just nothing like I thought he was, I'm afraid. And I've come to realise that he's really quite an unsavoury character. But he's done a lot of good things for charity and that, I suppose. So, you know, I just don't know why he's doing this. Why is he doing this? There's a thing, this edge between him and the police that started before he even went there, didn't it? And I think that is what's behind it all. And I said from the beginning, it's a battle of egos. Who was right? Who was wrong? And I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, on the police's side or on Peter's side or on Luke's side or anyone's side. I am only on Nikki's side, and whether people believe that or not, I honestly don't care, because that's the truth. So if Peter was offering something that would help with what happened to Nikki, or justice for Nikki, then I would be all for it. Nobody would be more all for it than me. But I just, you know, I'm just not seeing it in this.
Do you know why the search dogs didn't find her?
Right, I was actually with a good friend of mine, Mandy, last week. I used to work with a lot on missing people. Now, she had a dog called Carly. There's lots of dogs, again, with search and rescue organisations who are trained. It's not my area of speciality, but I've worked with dogs for many, many years, i.e. on the Tobin case and things like that. They are trained to sniff like pork, and that's what they train on, bits of pork and things like that. Bodies gas off after they...
Just, you know, I know what you're saying is true. It's not true, but is he thinking, really thinking about maybe a member of Nicola's family watching this? If you're watching me now, you think if this was your member of family, and the way he's talking like bits of pork and, you know, seals, and he goes on to say all sorts of things. He's not thinking, he's not mindful of how that would feel, you know, if that was his daughter, or if it was my son, or if it was you out there, one of your children and your close family. These are not objects, these are people that we're talking about. And to just this language that he's using, which I know is true, and if you were talking like in the abstract, but he's not talking in the abstract, he's talking about a particular person.
They start to decompose, as we said, and there's no exact science when they say. And Mandy confirmed to me that when a body initially goes in the water, a cadaver dog won't pick up a scent straight away, because there's nothing actually gassing off. The body's not decomposing, so the water's acting as a shield, and it will be very, very difficult to pick up. Once a body starts to decompose and you get gas bubbles coming to the surface, then, excuse me, that I've just had a cup of tea. That stage that's when the cadaver dogs can start to pick up scent. I said that's not my area of expertise, but that's actually come from a dog handler. I've worked with blood dogs over the years who can smell blood, dogs that can smell money, dogs that can detect firearms, and they are absolutely brilliant. And
the thing is, when he was there saying that he'd seen it, you know, it was over a week in. She had been in there over a week, so she will have started to decompose, bless her. So, you know, I don't think this really ties in. Well, I think I understand what you're saying, that if somebody had very just fallen into the water, you know, they hadn't, you know, the dogs would not pick up a scent because there'd be nothing to pick up. It takes a couple of days at least. So, but I don't think this really fits in with what he's saying, because he was over a week into Nicola disappearing.
And the handlers are as well. But after 1 day or 2 days, I would be very surprised if, and that's from other dog handlers, if it would actually pick up a scent at that early stage.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on. Again, another question.
So it wasn't within a couple of days. It was over a week later, wasn't it, when Peter went there? Wasn't it over a week?
Has been asked by a lot of people. Will you be releasing the pictures of the man in black?
No, I mean, there's been a lot of speculation about this man in black.
Yeah, he thought this was quite funny about the man in black, but he made a big thing of it, didn't he? That this man was asking questions and he got someone to take a photo. And then when it came to the actual question and answer, he's actually smiling about it and thinking it's funny, because he used that to his advantage. That's my opinion. It's like, no, you know, no, because he knows that he's just trying to discredit the police. That's what he's trying to do. Like, they tried to discredit him, so now he's trying to discredit them.
Man in black, I noticed, look, we're suspicious. We work on these jobs and you get suspicious about things that are going on. This individual came up to my team, as members of the public do, and on day one was asking lots of questions about the sonar. That was on Monday the 6th. On Tuesday the 7th, when we were searching the area around the bench and down the river.
So just going back to what I was saying before, so Monday the 6th, well, Nicola went missing on the 27th, so she'd been gone over a week, so there should have been this, there should have been something for the dogs to pick up by then, shouldn't they? And he's right, people will go up to him and ask questions, and probably a lot of people were dressed in black, fishermen dressed in black. You know, I don't know if the person that went up and asked him a lot about sonar, maybe they were to do with it. Maybe they were wondering, oh, are they going to find her? You know, or maybe they were just trying to suss it. It's possible, but he's sort of, again, he's just making something out of it and then dismissing it. And he's just manipulating people's opinions.
He appeared again, and he was standing there on his phone, and he was looking. He just happened to be dressed in black. My team noticed him. I didn't, because I was on the sonar, and said, that's that same guy. So I rang Dave Nelson from the Sun newspaper. I've known for years. He's the photographer. I said, Dave, could you just take a shot of this guy and take a couple of snips? And it may or may not be nothing, but I can't go into it. And then what I done, I sent that to the police search advisor, them images. Now, that man may be totally innocent. And what you could do is you could release an image of a man in black, and the guy is absolutely, he could be an undercover police officer, or he could be anybody. So yeah. I know I wouldn't be doing.
Yeah, so he's downplaying it now. It's like, but he phoned his mate from the Sun newspaper. You know, that I think Peter's been part of a boys' club for a long time. Mark Williams, Thomas, this guy, photographer, Martin Brunt. You know, and this boys' club, don't think it's the club anymore. That's why he doesn't like woke and all that sort of thing. He doesn't like it because he's not part of it. He hasn't moved with the times. He's not prepared to. He wants to go back to the times when it was just, you know, a load of guys sat in a smoke-filled room. That's the impression I get of Peter. It's like they're like yesterday's men, aren't they, in a way? It's like, you know, things move on. I think that's what's happening in Lancashire Police. They're getting rid of the, you know, a lot of the people that we're dealing with this case, you know, with all due respect, they're younger than me. I'm not like 8, but they were on the verge of retirement and now they, like, you know, I think they're trying to bring in some new blood that they probably should have done a long time ago, because, you know, it's like, the IT expert and even the diver Thackeray, and you know, where are the young people? I'm just asking, because you know, I would think forces, any system works better with a combination. I'm not saying just get rid of all the old people, because old people, or older people, I should say, they offer their experience, and that's very important as well. I'm not saying it isn't, but younger people, they're bringing a fresh way of thinking in today's world, because the world moves on. We're living in a world today that is completely different from the world we were living in 30 years ago. So that's what you need, is the combination of the experience of the older people and the fresh way of looking at things and the knowledge of technology. I mean, you know, there's just things, you know, you can't conceive of going on now, isn't there, with technology and AI and things like that. And even every sort of 5 years, really, you could need somebody who knows more, you know. It's changing so quickly now. It's even young people get left behind, and then the even younger, what, you know, what a 25-year-old knows is so an 18-year-old will know different things, and then a 35-year-old will. But the experience as well. Do you see what I'm saying? So to me, same with male, female, ethnic minorities, sexual orientation. Everybody offers something into a pot. Nothing is straightforward, black and white. So the more sort of experience, different viewpoints, different life experiences, different technical knowledge. You need a combination all the time in a team, in my opinion. They can't all be old people, they can't all be young people, they can't all be anything. It's the mixture that reflects the world that we live in, which is very, very diverse. And I think Peter's maybe not real, because he wasn't the only diving team on that list. Of course, there'll be loads of them. And everyone, they're all private firms, so they're all competing for those contracts. They want those contracts, you know. So yeah, maybe he's had his nose pushed out of joint a little bit
doing that, but I did hand it to the police. The police have probably looked into it, I would have thought, and I'm not doubting that. So, but the thing is, I never actually heard back, and that's what I was disappointed with. You know, you hand an image over, and you would expect somebody potentially come and take a statement from me, what would normally happen, and nobody ever did. I never.
Yeah, no, I agree with him in that. He deserved a reply. He handed over the things, but I think they were probably already quite annoyed with him. And don't forget, he didn't hand over these images till quite a long time later. You know, some people are saying, oh, he should have been called to the inquest, or he should have been this, or he should have been that. But he did it. It wasn't till September that he wrote to the coroner. And started flashing that, you know, he wasn't doing it right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, he was stating categorically she wasn't in the river. So I think we have to remember that. But I agree with him. When he sent the pictures off, even if it was a sniffy reply, like, well, thanks, but no thanks, he should have received some sort of a reply. He should have received some sort of acknowledgement. I do agree with him there. That's just a mark of respect, isn't it? If they send him, he sends them the images and his thoughts, even if they replied just to say, well, no, we don't agree with that's a load of rubbish, they should still have replied just out of respect. I do believe that. But I think their relationship had broken down by then. You know, that there's a lot more as well, I think, behind the scenes. The police can't say anything. That's the other thing. Don't forget, the police can't comment on any kind of investigation. He's got free rein because he's a civilian. He can go on YouTube and chat to somebody and say what he thinks. The police can't do that, you know. So they've got to, it must drive him mad, because they've got to sort of keep it zipped. And of course, in the College of Policing review, they did, you know, say in a very thinly veiled way what they think of Peter Faulding, but they can't come on and do an interview like this. So you know, I think there's just a total breakdown of respect on both sides. He keeps saying he respects the police, but then he just, you know, has a dig at him. So I don't believe that he does, really.
Never even heard. So that's why I mentioned it. Things like this must be done. You can't just hand an image over on a WhatsApp message and then hear nothing back. Nothing. And
Yeah.
that was my concern about.
So handed an image over on a WhatsApp message. Well, he's done that with 2 YouTubers and Psychic, but he can't do that with the experts. So this is the other thing. I just don't understand. I don't understand why he's been able to show these images immediately to people, but he was waiting till the new year before he sends them off to the Home Office and the people that count, etc. And God knows when we're going to get any. How long does it take, you know, for them to doctor the image? You know, that's how it feels. It's like, if the image was so clear to the psychic, why is it taking so long for him to get it confirmed by experts? Do you see what I mean? I'm not, you know, trying to dish Peter just for no reason. These are genuine questions that I'm asking. Why is it taking so long for the expert images to come back when it was so instant with sending them to Debbie the psychic? That's why.
About a lot of things about this case, really.
You at least wanted that to be maybe looked into at the time.
Yeah, or just a reply message. I've actually passed it. Thank you, Peter. I've passed it on to the inquiry team, and we're dealing with it. That's all I need. I don't need to know anything else, and I would probably never know. But, you know, I handle a lot of confidential information all the time, and I always get briefed by, you know, the SIO and the police, and with very complex information, and it never goes out to the public.
Okay, thank you very much. So
See, that's not strictly true either, because that's the other reason the police were angry with him, was because he was being interviewed left, right and centre and giving views left, right and centre about her categorically not being in the river. And maybe he actually said that he thought she might have run off with someone, or she may have been abducted, or pointed out a deposition site to the family. You know, don't forget these things that he did. These are the reasons why the police weren't happy with him. So it's not quite true that he said that he's discreet. He's not.
Moving on to the next question. Are you worried about the comeback of things that you have said publicly throughout this case?
I think I was always going to take a beating, wasn't I? Really. I mean, let me make it clear. And this is what I want to talk about. Day one, we arrived on day one, and I flew up there, as you're probably aware.
You think when he said I was always going to take a beating, he didn't take a beating from me or from us. From, you know, we were all 100% behind him. So it's the only reason I've got like a bit snarky with him is because of this sort of weird thing that he's come out with. That's why. You know, so he said I was always going to take a beating. He means from the police, because the public were 100% behind him, weren't there? There was nobody at the time saying anything. It's only since he's come out with all this that people have turned against him. Some people are still 100% behind him, and that's their choice.
I landed in Emmersfield, and then I was briefed by my one of my team, and he drove me. The lads have been setting the sonar boat up that morning, and he said to me, "There's media everywhere, Pete. You know, just be aware of that." And I got to the caravan where I went inside and briefed my team, and they were all taking photographs. And then, as I got out the caravan, there was no police officers, and I just had to walk down to the river to our boat that was set up. And now, I want to say that the media were very, very respectful to me. They didn't butt it. They didn't hound me. They were very respectful, and they said, "Do you mind? Could we have a chat later?" Whatever. Now, the point is here: whenever you do a job, we never speak to the media ever. We, you know, if you look back a few months ago, the lady who got badly bitten and killed by the dogs in Caterham, by the dangerous dogs when she was walking the dogs, that was our job to go and recover her body, and I had to locate the evidence that was all scattered around. You know, very high profile job, the media everywhere, but there was a cordon. Surrey police put a big cordon up with a tape, very politely with the media. The media are from a distance. My phone was going because we had our vehicles there. I didn't even answer it because I knew what it would be about. We never made comment, and it never went in the media. When we got to St Michael's, there was not even a cordon tape. Now, normally you would give the press an area, press conference.
Yeah, and he's right there. He's definitely right there. That he wasn't cordoned off. He wasn't, but you know, he still, in my eyes, he still should have known not to speak to the media, because he knows, he's, as he says, he's been doing this for a long time. But he's right. He wasn't protected from the media. It wasn't controlled properly, and I think that was admitted in the College of Policing review, wasn't it? So you know, I've got to say I do agree with him there, but I do think it's like if somebody you know, if you something comes up and you know you're not supposed to do it because of your experience in that job, even though nobody's telling you you can't do it, but you just know because you've done that job for so many years, you know that this is a no to do that, then you don't need somebody to tell you that. You know that yourself. That's the only thing I would say. But he's right, should have been cordoned off, and the media was not controlled properly, but he had a hand in that as well. He, you know, he was out there. It wasn't only one interview. He was in, you know, he was all over.
With a chemical toilet where they could actually happily be, give them a few bottles of water. They're just doing a job. You've got to realise this. They are just reporting to the public. But they were following us down the bank to the river. I had drones flying over my head. And at not one stage, no one mentioned it to me. And then I came out the river at the end of the day, and there's pictures online. I was surrounded in media, literally covered. And I spoke, you know, I know a lot of them, like Martin Brunt from Sky. I've over the years, they've covered things that I've worked on, like the Gareth Williams case. So they're known, April Jones and Toby, they're known, and they know me. And I don't want to be rude and arrogant, but No one's told me to stop. Now, if not one stage, one officer said to me,
do you see what I'm saying? He said nobody told him to stop, but really he should have known to stop. But we've got to give him that. He wasn't told to stop. He carried on. Maybe he thought he was being helpful.
Peter, quick phone call. Can you please stop talking to the media? Now, as if with my reputation, I'm not going to say, oh, and just carry on talking, am I? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So nobody told me not to speak to the media. They just let me loose. And for 3 days, no one said a word. And they said in the report that I was signing.
Yeah, but that's a bit like, I'm a teacher, and if I, having nobody told me not to have a relationship with that 15-year-old or whatever. Some things you just know that you're not supposed to do. You can't just say, oh, well, nobody said that I couldn't do it, So I don't, I'm a bit up in the air with that, Peter.
Signed an NDA. I didn't sign an NDA. I signed a piece of paper that was highlighting we were responsible for our own health and safety. We were responsible for our own risk assessments and our equipment. Now, I run a multi-million-pound company, and I can assure you, so we're going since '95, I do know what an NDA looks like. This was a one sheet. I quickly scribbled in it and agreed it. Now, and also, at the College of Policing, they could not provide a copy of that said NDA to me anyway.
Yeah, that's true as well. And they admitted that they did not give him a copy, or it was either they didn't keep a copy or they didn't give him a copy. That was another cock up that the College of Policing did. So I agree with him on that as well. And I'm sure everything happened, but things happen quickly sometimes, don't they? And you don't think about the NDA or what you're signing or whatever. He's just thinking it's the insurance. So I do agree with him there. The police cocked that up. There's no point in them saying he had to sign an NDA and then they can't produce a copy of it. The police should know that more than anyone. You need evidence, for God's sake. So not even evidence of the NDA in this case, not evidence of anything. But no, he's right there. He's completely right.
Anywhere. It doesn't exist. So I've never given confidential information. I've never given away sensitive any information to anybody, and I never would. And I just need to clarify this.
But that's not true, Peter, because you have been showing people, your mates, your sonar images that they've then gone on publicly to talk about.
That I was just going up there to do a job, and I should have been just said, quick phone call, Peter, stop talking to the media. Great, that was it. But nobody did.
Yeah, and that would have been quite an easy thing to do, to be fair.
Well, there would have been it would have been even a quick WhatsApp would have been fine, and it would have happened. I mean, this was all witnessed by my team. I mean, my team couldn't believe it. I mean, highly experienced guys, and they've never seen nothing like it. They were everywhere, all over us, but they weren't. They waited till we finished our search, to be fair, but they were running down the riverbanks again, just doing their job, which is fair comment, but no one was controlling them, and there was no press. There was no press officer on site from Lancashire Police to brief the media. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah,
well, fair enough. Right, moving on. So, if you were in charge of this search yourself from the beginning, what would you have done differently, Pete?
Right. Okay. The first thing you did, I would have gone 100 meters upriver from the bench. I would have started the sonar bench. Well, we would have probably gone up to the caravan park, to be fair, because you never know where Nicola actually went in, although her phone was at the bench. And we would have run the sonar. I mean, we can cover about 10 miles of river a day with our sonar to find a body. Very, very rapid. I'm not talking about River Thames width. I'm talking about a normal canal, normal river.
Yes.
We would have started 100 meters upstream, gone down past the bench, and basically she would have been found, because that's the area. I mean, she's not gone anywhere. The sonar we have is the best in the world. It's 1800 kilohertz. Now, I spoke to the manufacturers of our equipment a few weeks ago, Marine Sonic, and Terry confirmed to me that no UK police forces will spend £53,000 on their equipment. No police force has got our equipment. And although it said in the report they have the same equipment, they do not. I pioneered the use of side scan sonar in the UK in 1999 when I went over to the US, and I brought it back. I work with Mark Harrison, MBE, the National Search Advisor, and he used to. We done 3 years of extensive trials, and then Mark used to started bringing me on and murders, missing people all around the country. I've got so much experience, and I could find a lady's handbag on the bottom of the river with it. I can see footprints on the bottom of the river with it.
Yeah,
and I know that no one else has got the equipment in forensic search in the UK the same quality as ours. I know that for a fact.
Right, well, there you go. So the images should be clear as day then, shouldn't they? Let's see what happens when he sends them finally to an expert.
can I just say, and this is just an added, this is not in these questions, but it has, I've seen it a few times in the comments. Now, I just want to quickly say, there's a lot of questions that are like popping in that have already been answered in mine and Peter's interview before. If you haven't seen it, please go and check it out. It's on my channel. But I feel like this needs reiterating because some people are a little bit confused by this. Now, some people are saying, if you located this target, why didn't you just go in and dive it yourself?
Right.
Can you let people know why that is?
No, that's a very fair question, actually. I mean, right, firstly, we're working on a police operation, and it's their operation. First, you're in deep water. I can't just we had a dive truck there, but our diving equipment was based in the truck in the truck.
Well, I just want to say here that he couldn't just go in and dive. The police said that he's a civilian, so he can't. And this is where the police said something significant, because they said they couldn't let him interfere with a potential crime scene. So, you know, they didn't know. They knew, they always felt she was in the river, but they didn't know and still don't know. This is what my assertion is. It doesn't matter in a way. Was she in the river then? Did he find her or not? What difference does it make? How did she get in the river? So anyway, apparently what the police said was they couldn't let him dive because he's a civilian. And I do agree with that. You know, they, at the end of the day, he's a civilian. But anyway, now it looks like they were deliberately stopping him diving. They weren't deliberately stopping him diving. It's just they had to send a police dive team in. They had to, otherwise it would have been criticised later on. Or why did you let a civilian go down there and dive? So, and he, you know, he couldn't go in and dive. And I agree with him there. But, you know, at the end of the day, the water was very shallow. I think, you know, maybe he could have dropped something in the water and said, oh, I've got to go and pick up my mobile phone or whatever. But anyway, didn't. So there's no point. Again, it's sort of almost a moot point, isn't it? It doesn't matter because he didn't, and it didn't happen. And the police said, and what you have to remember is, do you not believe the police then? Is this what people are saying? The police were lying when they said that they went down and cleared that area. Is that what he's saying? Cleared it in the sense of there was nothing there. It just comes to a point where do you believe that or not? I personally believe them because I think they would have loved to have found Nicola then and just, you know, produced Nicola and said, oh, we were right all the time. Don't see what the reason would have been for them to pretend to see that she was there and then say she wasn't. So that's the way I look at it, and people might look at it differently, and that's fine, that's their choice. But to me, what would the reason be for them pretending she was not there or pretending they'd searched when they hadn't? I don't believe that.
So we're in our, you know, I'm in a waterproof suit and going down, keeping warm. We're sonaring. My job, and it was very clear, and we agreed this with the police, that if anything was found, then we would advise the police, and then they would they potentially would dive it. And I did say to them, we need to put a diver in, but they refused to let us because they were like 3 hours away, but they wouldn't let us dive. So normally we would be the diving team, but they had their own, the Northwest Underwater Search Unit, who are, you know, the police divers, and that's their job. And we let them, obviously that was their job to do that day.
So just reiterate to everybody that's in here.
I think what you're saying is, isn't it? There was a dive team, a police dive team on the way from London. So, you know, and they dove and they went in there and said, no, there was nothing there. So unless you'd maybe moved by then, I just don't believe until I see the sonar images, or I don't have to see them until some expert confirms the sonar images. I just cannot take it on board.
You were able to dive that target.
Yeah.
Would you have dived that target on that day you found the target?
We should have dived it straight away, because a target could be floating, it could be moving. If it's considering how long Nicola had been in the river, she may be slightly buoyant, slightly neutrally buoyant off the ground, and she could start to move. So that was really important to put a diver in quickly. Absolutely.
Right, thank you for that. I think that's clarified that, because I have heard that a lot of times.
I just say we can't just jump in the water, firstly without dive kit, it's too deep anyway, but we can't just jump over the side of a boat, or we can't use a hook, because the thing is, we do so many searches. I mean, you work, you know, fire and rescue normally get there before us, we'll arrive, they going in with their pole cameras, and even the firefighters say to me, Pete, you know, this is too deep for us, we can't reach the bottom, and we're only looking, it's like looking at an eyeball in the bottom of the river, you're looking at a very narrow area, and the visibility was very poor as well. So a camera's not much use underwater in poor visibility, because we're normally diving in black water, so not a lot of use. So that's where it needs a diver.
Would you have got in trouble for diving if you went against their instruction?
I would never do that. I mean, you can't go against police instruction. I mean, that would just be suicide. I mean, you just wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it in respect.
No, and he's right. Of course you wouldn't. You can't go against the police. He's a private company at the end of the day. But maybe now he wishes he had, because his professional reputation went into tatters anyway. So maybe he should have just done it. Took the flak.
You don't break the rules. I mean, if you're briefed on a thing, say you don't do that, then we don't do it. I've been working with the police so long, and like I say, greatest respect for them. At the end of the day, we're not going to go off on a tangent and run our own operation here. You know, I regret, like I said, probably talking to the media, but I had no little choice, because I was being surrounded with them every afternoon, every morning.
Well, that's not quite true, Peter. You did have a choice. All you had to say was, I'm sorry, I can't comment. That's all you had to say. For goodness sake, that's not true to say you didn't have a choice. That is not true. I agree with some of the things he's saying, and I'm sure he wishes he could have dived. And, you know, maybe it's possible that Nicola was there and then she did move away. We just don't know. Will we ever know? And does it make any difference to what actually happened to Nicola? I don't know.
But no, I certainly wouldn't break the rules.
Yeah, well, most people did and do understand that logic, but I wanted to clear that up as well. And I think you've cleared it up quite well there, Peter.
Yeah.
Moving on. How much water does a drowning victim not? Sorry, I'll just rephrase that. How much water does a drowning victim take on typically?
I am not right. That I'll be honest with you, Luke. We recover. That is not my area of expertise, and I don't want to go into that, because that is definitely not my area of expertise. But all I can say is the victims, when we talk to witnesses of most sort of 17-year-olds, because I say the average age we recover is sort of 16, 17-year-olds. And they flail around in the water, they get exhausted, and once they take a gasp of breath, it's horrible to talk about, then they go rapidly to the bottom.
Okay, I just want to say quickly, thank you to the mods. You're doing a really good job. If everyone hits like, show some support in the chat. Again, yeah, the mods are doing a really, really good job, and the chat is largely very, very positive. So moving on.
Okay, I'm going to stop there, because we're at half an hour, 32 minutes. It's a good place to stop. So that is going to be part one. And as I say, I'm going to cut it into 3 or 4 segments. And I've not decided where I'm going to upload it yet. I may upload it on Rumble, of all things, at first. I don't want to. It's whatever I do with this video now, people will say, oh, you know, you're making money out of Nicola Bulley, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. This is not the point of it. people want to watch this video. Some people were halfway through it and it just was down, you know, taken off. So, you know, people didn't realize it was going to be removed from YouTube. So I want people to see it. I've watched it twice. I watched it the first time when it was actually live, and then I watched it when I was downloading it. You know, and now I'm watching it again to give a critique on it. I've wanted to wait because I didn't want to do it in a, you know, it's a very emotional subject, you know, to anyone who's been invested in this case right from the beginning, like I have, you know, feel strongly, you know, and we feel this sense of injustice for Nicola. And it really hurt a lot of people, or it really upset a lot of people to think that she was just left there in the river. And I don't think, you know, Peter needs to sort of acknowledge that, maybe, instead of just getting angry at anyone who criticises him in any way, shape or form. You know, people were 100% behind him. And then he came out with this, and then it just wasn't very nice. And maybe you should understand that. Maybe you should say, Peter, if you're watching this, because bound to be either he's watching it or one of these little troll people that are out there will be watching it to report back to him. You know, maybe you should think about that and think about how people put 100% faith in you, including me. And they didn't. This was like a shock to everyone, you know. So it's not that people, you have to accept perhaps a bit of responsibility for yourself for all those things that you said time after time after time after time after time, and people believed you, and then you turn around and said something completely different. So maybe you should be a little bit gracious and realize that that is why people got emotional about it, got angry about it, including me, for that very reason. That it's like, you know, finding out that someone you absolutely trust has lied to you all along. So maybe you could do with a little bit of humility in that way, and understanding why people are upset about it, instead of just resolutely refusing to accept any criticism and sending people out to bully the people that are saying anything about you. That's all I would say to you, Peter. Okay, so I'll see you, as always, I'll see you very soon in the next video. Remember to live and love very carefully, very wisely, and I'll see you in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.